It was supposed to be a normal Thursday. Just a quick visit to the hardware store, then picking up my son Noah from his after-school art class, followed by takeout from his favorite Thai place and movie night at home. We had it planned out, even down to the snacks. He was going to show me a drawing he'd worked on all week. Something about a stegosaurus with rocket boosters. Just another ordinary, beautiful day in our quiet routine. But life doesn't send warnings. It only leaves wreckage. One missed traffic signal. A truck ignoring the speed limit. A flash of screeching tires, shattered glass, and screaming. The next thing I knew, I was kneeling in the street, cradling my son's tiny broken body, blood soaking through both of our clothes. His sketchbook had landed several feet away, pages fluttering like dying birds. I don't remember driving to the hospital, just the sirens, the nurse pulling him away, the feeling of my palms trembling so hard I couldn't even sign the admittance forms. Noah, my miracle, my light, my son after nearly 10 painful years of adoption attempts and heartbreak, was unconscious. The ER staff moved quickly, swarming his fragile body with machines and wires as I stood helpless, still wearing my favorite gray hoodie now ruined with his blood. They told me he had a hairline skull fracture, a shattered femur, and a ruptured spleen. Internal bleeding. High risk. But he was alive. That was all I needed to hear to keep breathing. I stayed by his bedside for what felt like forever. Hospitals don't care about time the way we do. Minutes bleed into hours. I held his tiny fingers and whispered, "Daddy's here. I'm not going anywhere, okay? I promise? I'm right here." I must have repeated that 100 times. For him. For me. Then my phone rang, snapping through the silence like a gunshot. It was Claire, my sister. "You've made your point," she said sharply before I even spoke. "He's stable. You can stop acting like the world ended over a bruise." I stared at the wall, stunned. I could still hear the monitors beeping beside me. Could still see the bruises, the cast, the IV in Noah's arm. "Claire," I whispered, "he's in intensive care. His spleen was removed. His leg is broken in 3 places. He almost—" "And yet you skipped Caleb's gallery opening?" she snapped. "This was the biggest night of his life. He had serious investors there. People who could have changed everything. You embarrassed the whole family." I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself to. "You always do this. Turn everything into a tragedy. That kid was never meant to be part of this family anyway." "That kid? Like he was an accident I brought home from a garage sale." "He's my son," I said slowly and firmly. "Adopted?" she corrected coldly. "Not blood. You're drawing attention, and not the kind we want." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from grief anymore. A few hours later, my mother texted, "You're overreacting. Kids bounce back. Caleb is devastated." Not one word asking about Noah's condition. Not even a simple, "Is he okay?" But then, something happened. The next morning, Noah opened his eyes. Just a flutter at first, then a slow, pained glance in my direction. "Dad?" he whispered. I collapsed, right there on his blanket-covered chest. I sobbed silently into the scratchy hospital sheets, feeling his tiny hand reach for my face. I didn't tell him about Claire's cruelty or my mother's apathy. I just kissed his forehead and whispered, "We're okay now. You're safe. I've got you." But inside, something in me hardened. Quietly, completely. That afternoon, my parents showed up at the hospital. They brought a bouquet from a gas station and a cheap bottle of sparkling cider, as if those tokens could erase decades of coldness. My mother stared down at Noah, carefully inspecting his injuries like they were smudges on a wine glass. "What a shame," she muttered. "He had such a sweet little face." Then she turned to me, offering a brittle smile. "Don't get your hopes up," she said flatly. "The doctor said full recovery isn't likely, right? Caleb has a press event tonight. You should be there." My jaw clenched, but I didn't say anything. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my phone had been recording. Her words, her tone, the sharp contrast when a nurse walked in and she suddenly cooed, "Oh, he's such a brave little fighter." That evening I spoke to the head nurse and made it clear. My family was not to be allowed back. No exceptions, not even to peek through the glass. They protested. My father even offered a sizable donation to the hospital in exchange. But I made sure their names were blacklisted. And that was just the beginning. In the following days, I barely left Noah's side. We watched cartoons, we read books. I held his hand through every needle and scan. The doctors were stunned by his strength, but they warned me. Multiple surgeries awaited us. Months, maybe over a year, before he could walk. I didn't flinch. Meanwhile, the messages kept coming. My brother Caleb finally called, not to check on Noah, but to complain. "Because of your no-show, I lost my investor," he growled. "You realize what that means? You tanked my career." "My son almost died," I said, "and I almost lost everything I've worked for. Learn some priorities, David." I said nothing. Then came the email from my father. "Your behavior is disgraceful. Family supports family. Your son's condition, while unfortunate, cannot overshadow everything else. Be an adult. No love, no warmth, just veiled threats and fake concern." So I did the only thing I could. I hired a child trauma counselor, a pediatric neurologist, a legal advocate. I surrounded Noah with experts who believed in him. While my family curated their social media personas and crafted press releases, I built something stronger, a wall around my boy. By the third week, Noah could sit up. His smile returned, timid but real. One afternoon, he asked me to draw dinosaurs with him again. When I hesitated, afraid I'd mess it up, he touched my hand and whispered, "It's okay, Dad. You're doing great." And in that moment, I understood. I had spent years minimizing myself, shrinking to fit into a family that never made space for me. No more. I gathered every voicemail, every text, every recorded conversation. Their laughter, their dismissal, their cruelty. Then I compiled it all and sent it, anonymously, to the director of the arts grant funding Caleb's Foundation, to museum boards, to a journalist who'd recently published a glowing profile on my father's philanthropy. The fallout was swift. Caleb's contracts vanished. His gallery shut down. My father was removed from multiple boards. My mother's social life disintegrated like ash in the wind. And I used an inheritance, one they assumed I had squandered, to move Noah to a lakeside rehabilitation center renowned for pediatric recovery. I changed our phone numbers, filed restraining orders, blocked every contact. Then I stood in court and read from a specialist's report. The child's trauma was intensified not solely by the accident, but by the rejection and verbal cruelty from his extended family. I looked at them and said, "My son is not a burden, and I am no longer your son." 3 months passed. Noah stood on his own again, shaky, uncertain, but determined. He laughed when he fell, and I cried quietly each time, because that laugh had brought me back from the edge, too. We moved into a small apartment by the lake, quiet, peaceful, free of surprises. Until one morning someone knocked on our door. It was my mother, manicured, smiling tightly, eyes wide with practiced concern. "We'd like to see Noah," she said sweetly. I didn't move. "We were misrepresented," she added. "You twisted things. You were emotional." "He heard you," I said. "He remembers." My father appeared beside her, arms wide like a preacher. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he said. "You ruined us." "You ruined yourselves," I replied. "You still owe us," my mother spat. He's your responsibility, not ours. But smear us again, and we'll take legal action." Then Noah peeked from the hallway. He looked at her silently, then asked me, "Is that the lady who said I was a mistake?" I knelt beside him. "Yes, buddy, that's her." Noah walked forward and closed the door himself. I never saw them again. But they weren't done paying, because I still had everything. Old files from my time working at my father's firm in college. Documents they thought deleted. Fake charities, fraud, misdirected funds. I waited until Caleb tried to relaunch under a new foundation. That's when I sent it all to the IRS, to journalists, to the Arts Council. Within weeks, my father's accounts were frozen. Caleb's reputation was shredded. My mother faded into irrelevance. Then came one final email. "You've burned every bridge. Hope you're satisfied." I didn't reply, because I was too busy helping Noah write his comic series for kids recovering from trauma. He called it Strong Bones, Brighter Skies. At a small library event, he introduced me with a proud smile. "This is my dad. He didn't save the world. He saved me. And that's all I'll ever need to hear. No, I didn't destroy my family. They did that all on their own. I just told the truth and walked away, holding my son's hand, without ever looking back."